Welcome to the fantasy audiobook. One Piece. I am Six Eyes Sukuna, the strongest one. Chapter 41. A few minutes ago, Huo Shaoshan came to the Holy Land of Marihoa and personally met with the Navy Marshal Zhang Guo. What you said is true. After hearing this, Zhang Guo looked shocked, and Huo Shaoshan's mouth curled up slightly. This is what he wanted. He couldn't be the only one scared by Kurosawa. Everyone in the Navy had to know. What kind of monster was trained in Huo Shaoshan's training camp? Huo Shaoshan. The news was reported by Miguel. General Borsellino was also present in this battle. It can't be fake. Zhang Guo was in a trance when he heard this. At the age of 18, he was in the swordsman realm, mastered the domineering and the super high movement speed, defeated 5 supernovas in a row, and fought with the legendary Pluto Rayleigh who lived on this sea, and finally escaped unscathed. Looking at the whole world, I'm afraid there is no second person who can do this. It can be said that he is the most monstrous genius since the establishment of the Navy. Even if Garp and him, or Kuzan, Sakazuki, and Borsellino, at this age, could never reach such a height. Even if they joined forces, they would probably be beaten by Kurosawa of the same period. What is this concept? A combat-level genius who is very likely to subvert the world pattern is about to appear. This thought flashed through Zhang Guo's mind, and he couldn't help laughing. The haze that was previously shrouded by the Whitebeard pirates was swept away at this moment. Even if this battle cannot be won, when Kurosawa grows up, he will still be able to sweep across the sea in the future. Let the bullets fly for a while, so what? Thinking of this, Sengoku's wise eyes sparkled. It was as if he saw the distant future, where the Navy, under the leadership of Kurosawa, arrested all the great pirates in the New World, and the great pirate era opened by Roger ended here. Call Borsellino immediately and ask Kurosawa. Oh no, ask Kurosawa's opinion to see if he is willing to attend the meeting of the 7 warlords of the sea. Huo Shaoshan was stunned when he heard this. Marshal Sengoku, although I will not deny your decision, but will it be bad to let Kurosawa be exposed so early? Hearing Huo Shaoshan's words, Sengoku just rolled his eyes at him. Sure enough, the things on the necks of these generals are just decorations. Kurosawa made such a big fuss in the Sabayati archipelago, do you think you can still hide it? Huo Shaoshan scratched his head when he heard this. Marshal Sengoku is right. Sengoku continued. Let's not talk about whether Rayleigh will take the initiative to reveal the news and let various forces go to assassinate Kurosawa. I'm afraid that at this moment, the stinky bird in the newspaper has already written it. Tomorrow's front page news release. Huo Shaoshan raised his eyebrows. Are you talking about Morgan's? Do you want to? Zhang Guo waved his hand, and a smile of control appeared on the corner of his mouth. Since it can't be concealed, let that stinky bird publicize it well. And we have to take the initiative to contact Morgan's and let him write well, otherwise, I don't mind plucking his feathers. Huo Shaoshan. Yes, Marshal Zhang Guo. Zhang Guo turned his head and looked out the window. Since Kuzan, Sakazuki, and Borsellino, the Navy has never had a monster that can match them. This has also caused the strength of the Navy in the new era to begin to appear. If something unexpected happens, no one can replace the position of the Admiral of the Navy. Gion and Cake are still much worse than those monsters. Sengoku's eyes swept into the distance. The setting sun was reflected on the calm sea. In these few short days of peace, he was bound to make Kurosawa's name as the successor of the new era of the Navy a well-known name. In this way, it would not only boost the Navy's low morale at this time, but also set an example for the young people, and at the same time intimidate those guys who were ready to make a move. Killing 2 birds with 1 stone, it really deserves to be my wise General Sengoku. If the Navy were all brainless like Garp, they would be scattered sooner or later. Shichibukai meeting. Hearing Borsellino's words, Kurosawa was stunned. Ding! The host's current situation has been detected, and a new life choice has appeared. Life choice 1. Agree to go to the Shichibukai meeting, and scold Borsellino at the meeting as an undercover, dereliction of duty and letting Monkey D. Luffy run away, and expose his inaction in this Shichibukai meeting. Reward. Prestige level increased to LV3. Life choice 2. Gladly agree to Marshal Zhang Guo's request. Show some of your strength in the 7 warlords meeting. Reward. Armament hockey is raised to LV3. Life choice 3. You are arrogant and disdain such pretentious occasions, and decisively reject Sengoku's request. Reward. Appearance +3. Hiss. These 3 rewards seem very tempting. But, it's not the right time to tear your face with a general in public now. Forget it, now his appearance is above everyone else in this world, so there is no need to add icing on the cake. How can I refuse Marshal Sengoku's invitation? I will go. Kurosawa smiled. Borsellino. Yoshi, that's good. I can hear that Mr. Sengoku's tone still hopes you will go. Oh, what do you think, General Borsellino? Kurosawa responded. Haha, Mr. Sengoku should be looking forward to your performance, after all, you are growing so fast now. Borsellino said absent-mindedly. If the pirates on the sea are eliminated as soon as possible, I can get off work earlier. As if realizing that he had let the cat out of the bag, Borsellino glanced at Kurosawa, and when he saw that the latter did not have much reaction, he retracted his gaze. This little guy is very close to Guion, I don't think I should tell him these things. Otherwise, if Guion goes to complain again, my reasons for asking for leave will be reduced by half. Marineford. Giant warships like mountains docked at the port one after another, and naval elites from all over the world landed on land. Tina, Smoker, Dashiki and other faces were among them. But what was different from usual was that these naval forces who could be called top masters in their respective regions were now in abundance in Marineford. Even the giant vice admiral, whose punch was enough to break the earth and destroy a tall building, could not be ranked among the top. Smoker's eyes swept around, looking for Kurosawa's figure. As someone who had been chasing Straw Hat Luffy for so long, it could be said that no one knew how difficult he was better than him, but he was defeated by a sergeant, which made Smoker very curious. The same was true for Dashiki. She wore glasses and kept searching for the boy with amazing appearance and blue eyes in the crowd. Looking at the elite troops gathering one after another, the elite lieutenant generals of the headquarters also felt the huge pressure brought by Whitebeard. Ghost Spider held a cigarette in his mouth, mobilizing so many combat forces. Marshal Sengoku is determined to win this battle. Doberman's voice was dull, and his eyes flashed with a strong fighting spirit. Whitebeard is known as the strongest king who reigns over the sea. Absolutely cannot be underestimated. Steele's face was serious. It is said that Whitebeard's casual blow can sink an island of considerable size. Destroy the island with one blow, the threat brought by the world's strongest man, the devil fruit with the power to destroy the world. Even the elite lieutenant generals of the headquarters felt a mountain of pressure. Such an enemy. It doesn't matter, there are still admirals here. In a dull atmosphere, the soldiers suddenly shouted like chicken blood. Admiral Kuzan, Admiral Sakaski. The soldiers looked at the 2 tall figures that appeared, with deep awe and yearning in their eyes. Representing the highest combat power of the Navy, the admirals of the Navy. With such a stabilizing force, they are not afraid of fighting even if the opponent is the Whitebeard pirates. Another huge warship slowly docked. Kurosawa, don't forget the Shichibukai meeting later, I'll get off the ship first. Before leaving, Borsellino gave a special reminder, which surprised Kurosawa. Okay, Admiral Borsellino. Look, it's Admiral Borsellino. The 3 admirals of the Navy are gathered together. It's never happened before. This time, our Navy will win the war. Hey, look at the guy behind Admiral Borsellino, with pale blue eyes. Could he be the Kurosawa who made a big fuss in the Sabayati archipelago today? Continuous killing 3 supernovas from the worst generation defeated the Straw Hat Pirates who are currently in the limelight alone. Is this true? How can this be possible for a sergeant like him? Of course it's true. I believe it won't be long before it's on the headlines. It is said that this guy has just joined the Navy, and as soon as he arrived at the barracks, he turned the entire camp upside down and beat up the instructor. Oh my god, he's so fierce. As the big guy next to him, Bartholomew Kuma, one of the legendary 7 warlords of the sea. Why are there so many strong people around this guy? From all over the world. The elite Navy officers heard about Kurosawa's deeds from the elite officers of the headquarters, and they all looked at Kurosawa with strange eyes. Ding! Congratulations on the host's prestige level being raised to LV3. Prestige level LV3, your justice is commendable. Reward. 100 million level bounty value 15,000 points. Random skill level is directly upgraded by 2 levels. Golden prize pool extraction authority is open. Listening to the sudden voice in his mind, Kurosawa was slightly stunned. If it is as he expected, today's deeds should have spread, right? He just returned to Marineford, and so many people know about it. The speed of spreading the news is quite fast. Random skill level is directly upgraded by 2 levels. What if it is randomly obtained by domineering Haki? LV4's Conqueror's Haki has already given him the power of the extraordinary heart. At this stage, as long as he does not use Conqueror's Haki all the time, his Haki will not be exhausted at all. If it is LV6, just don't eat beef. System, follow me. Ding. Randomly selecting skills for the host. Ding. The host has selected the skill Kendo LV3 for upgrading. Ding. Congratulations on the host's Kendo skill being upgraded to LV5. In an instant, as if he had experienced countless swordsmanship, a large amount of obscure Kendo insights all poured into Kurosawa's mind. When he opened his blue eyes again, Kendo had already entered the realm of a great swordsman. Once he had an epiphany, Kurosawa's temperament changed greatly. Like a sharp blade ready to go, it will burst out with the power to cut the sky as soon as it is pulled out. Miguel, who had been walking beside Kurosawa, was the first to notice the former's change. Boss, why do I feel like you seem to have changed? Oh, you seem to have become stronger again. Kurosawa just smiled when he heard this. He had entered the realm of a great swordsman. Even if he faced Zoro, who was in full condition before, he could kill him with one strike. Look, that guy, pale blue eyes, is that guy Kurosawa? How come this guy is more handsome than the rumors say? I can't accept it. The discussion of the crowd soon reached the ears of the vice admirals. Tina, Smoker, and Tashigi also looked in the direction of the voice. Smoker, is he the one who defeated the Straw Hat? He is so young. Tina was stunned for a moment when she saw it. Is there still such a handsome guy in the Navy? Tina licked her lips immediately, with a cunning look in the corner of her eyes. I've got you. Quote. Tashigi's quiet face turned slightly red after seeing Kurosawa's appearance, and then she lowered her head shyly, almost bumping into Smoker in front of her, Private Marseille. Ghost Spider and other elite lieutenant generals looked at Kurosawa, and they also showed a rare smile on their faces. After such a short time, he has already achieved this level. Seeing this kid's lively appearance, it is true that he can fight with Pluto Rayleigh and escape unscathed. Up to now, only a few people know the news of Kurosawa's fight with Pluto Rayleigh. If everyone else is like this kid, the Whitebeard pirates will be destroyed in a snap. I have a feeling Kurosawa is going to make a big noise again in this war. Haha, I hope so. This kid can't kill Whitebeard. It's already amazing to be able to fight with the captains under Whitebeard. Quote. Boss, they seem to be talking about you. Miguel said excitedly. If his skin wasn't too dark, his cheeks would probably be red now. Bartholomew Big Bear, Kurosawa, come with me. The meeting is about to start. It's not good to be late. Kurosawa patted Miguel on the shoulder. You go back first, I'll go to Marihoa. Okay, boss. Miguel looked at Kurosawa's back and sighed. You are worthy of being the boss. You can be so calm and composed in the face of so many people. In Marihoa, in a huge banquet hall, a variety of delicious seafood were placed on the gorgeous table, all cooked by the chef of the Celestial Dragon Holy Land. Several guys with different shapes and clothes were feasting on the table. Foo, you fool, how dare you come to this meeting? Wearing a fiery feather coat, 8-pack abs in wheat brown, and a pair of extremely pink sunglasses, Doflamingo looked at Moria and said mercilessly. If you dare to say one more word, you pink fool, I will keep you in the dark forever. Moria was stimulated and showed his sharp teeth. Even though he was wrapped in bandages, he didn't show his weakness in such an occasion. Fuffafoof, a guy defeated by a mere straw hat Luffy. I really don't know what you Navy thinks, letting such a guy become a Shichibukai. Tetsumi, Nishi ne. Moria's face turned red. Doflamingo, that fool, had been provoking him from the beginning to now. This time he couldn't stand it anymore. His huge body suddenly stood up, his fist wrapped in armament Haki, and he dunked at Doflamingo's head. Clang. Doflamingo stretched out his fingers, pulled out 5 lines and easily blocked it. Fuffafoof. Fufu, you may not know yet. The Straw Hat Pirates have already lost in Shampoo Land today. After saying that, Mariah's shocked expression was reflected in her pink sunglasses. How is it possible? Who defeated that Straw Hat Kid? He must have been too seriously injured in the fight with me. If I hadn't been careless for a moment, he would never have lost. Fufu, don't worry, you will know the answer soon. The person who defeated the Straw Hat Pirates will be here soon. Doflamingo looked at Mariah, with a barely perceptible cold light at the corner of his mouth. Just before attending this meeting, Doflamingo had secretly met with the 5 elders, one of which was to eliminate Mariah in this war with the Whitebeard pirates. Vice Admiral Suru, who was sitting quietly at the side, narrowed his eyes slightly, and Sengoku looked at the 2 people fighting again and held his forehead with some helplessness. This Doflamingo is well informed. In fact, few people know that Kurosawa will come to attend this meeting, but this is not important information. Who? Moriya's pupils trembled slightly when he heard this. He must have a good look at who dared to take away his chance of revenge. At the same time, Moriya was a little curious. Those who were qualified to attend this meeting had to be at least Vice Admiral level or above, or were there new Shichibukai joining? Thinking of this, Moriya glanced at Marshal D. Teach beside him with a bad look. It was this guy who captured the captain of the second team of the Whitebeard Pirates, Ace, the Fire Fist, alive. Otherwise, why would he be qualified to sit with him? However, Blackbeard ignored everyone, just ate meat by himself, and laughed from time to time. Jorakal Mahawk lifted his long legs and put them on the dining table. He only opened one eye and looked at the group of uncultured guys in front of him. He was disgusted in his heart. If it weren't for the opportunity to test Whitebeard this time and avoid the trouble of being wanted by the Navy, he would not obey the Navy's dispatch. Sengoku didn't even look at this group of people. If it weren't for the huge threat posed by Whitebeard, and the Navy needed the combat power of the 7 warlords to increase their chances of winning, he wouldn't have sat at the same table with this group of people. It was simply disgraceful. Why hasn't Bartholomew Kuma arrived yet? Report to Marshal Sengoku. Sorry, I'm late. The door of the banquet hall slowly opened, and a huge figure walked in, followed by a young man with an extraordinary appearance. Doflamingo's mouth curled up. Here you are, the person you were looking for. Moriya cast a pair of narrow eyes at Kurosawa, with a trace of murderous intent in his eyes. Could it be you? After noticing that Kurosawa only had the rank of sergeant on his shoulders, Moriya became even more furious. How could a mere sergeant defeat that Straw Hat Kid? But Moriya didn't dare to vent his anger on Doflamingo, who was also one of the Shichibukai. But, if he beat up this soldier, as he was one of the Shichibukai, the Navy wouldn't do anything to him, right? After all, they still had to deal with Whitebeard themselves. Thinking of this, Moriya no longer hesitated, and a dark shadow rushed straight towards Kurosawa from under his feet, like a hunter hiding in the depths, and the attack was extremely obscure and secretive. The enemy was in a state of panic, and the enemy was in a state of panic. Moriya's sudden attack made everyone present look different. Blackbeard and Doflamingo, who were also members of the 7 warlords of the sea, both showed evil smiles on their faces. No one likes watching the fun more than them. Mahawk's expression remained unchanged, and he had no interest in such things. Before the surrounding soldiers reacted, Vice Admiral Suru was the first to notice something was wrong, and his face changed for a while, but he was too late to stop it. Sengoku, who saw the whole scene, trembled his eyebrows slightly, but did not move. As a naval marshal, although he was old, he had the strength to stop Moriya's attack. But the reason why he did not take action was because of his consideration as a marshal. The reason why he wanted Kurosawa to come today was that one of the purposes was to shock these pirates who were named Shichibukai and let them know that the navy of the new era also had successors and no longer had a gap like before. Another reason was that Sengoku was sure that Kurosawa could not stop Moriya's sneak attack. How could a guy who could injure Pluto really be defeated by Moriya? What's more, Kurosawa had just defeated the Straw Hat Pirates, but Moriya was defeated by the Straw Hat Pirates. The black shadow that was flying on the ground could not escape Bartholomew Kuma's perception, but Sengoku did not make a move, and the target of this attack was obviously not him, so he chose not to make a move. By the way, let's see how strong Kurosawa is. He can defeat the Son of Dragon. Bartholomew Kuma was very curious. In just a blink of an eye, the black shadow had come to less than 1 meter in front of Kurosawa, but Kurosawa, as the protagonist, still had no change in expression, as if he did not notice the attack. The culprit Mariah had already revealed a triumphant smile. In his opinion, the range of the black shadow had not been discovered, which had already sentenced Kurosawa to death. At the same time, Mariah was also annoyed in his heart. Doflamingo, he was really lying to me. How could the straw hat boy who defeated me lose to this mere sergeant? However, in fact, from the moment Kurosawa stepped into the banquet hall, everyone's actions and expressions were seen by the 6 eyes that defy the heavens. Kurosawa could also guess the reason why Sengoku did not take action. But testing is testing. It does not mean that he, Kurosawa, has to swallow this breath, even if the opponent is the 7 warlords of the sea. Looking at Kurosawa, who has not made any move, Sengoku can't help but show a trace of doubt. Is the information wrong? This Kurosawa is not as strong as Huo Shaoshan said. It's bad. If this fool kills a marine in front of me, where will I put my face? In an instant, countless thoughts flashed through Zhongguo's mind, and the dormant power in his body was about to surge. A faint stream of light had already lingered on Zhongguo's body surface. Just when he was about to attack, Kurosawa looked up, and his blue eyes collided with Moriya's. The latter felt that he was shrouded in an inexplicable crisis, and cold sweat oozed from his back in an instant. Swish! The black shadow hit the defense of the unlimited technique and produced visible ripples. After a short delay, it broke through the defense of the unlimited technique, but its speed and power had been weakened by more than half. With such an attack, it is no wonder that Luffy, who has no domineering power, could defeat him. After all, he was a pirate who could fight Kaido. I didn't expect that his combat power would collapse to this extent after the decline of his heart power. Kurosawa sneered, raised his foot and then stepped down, nailing the shadow attack to the ground. The sudden change made Mariah exclaim in surprise. When he met Kurosawa's eyes, Mariah had seen that look before. When was it? Mariah's thoughts instantly drifted back to the past. He remembered that Kaido had also looked at him with such eyes during that battle. It was the look he gave to the weak asshole. Seeing that Kurosawa was fine, the Buddha's light on the surface of Sengoku's body quickly disappeared, as if it had never appeared, but Kurosawa's action immediately made him uneasy. Lieutenant General Suru just breathed a sigh of relief when he saw Kurosawa draw his sword with lightning speed. Ong! The famous sword was unsheathed, and in an instant, the temperature in the banquet hall dropped to cold. The enchanting dark flame pattern shone brightly on the blade, and the extreme sharpness made the swordsman standing at the top of the world couldn't help but be amazed. Glancing sideways, Mihawk's sharp eagle eyes shrank slightly. How could he not feel that the knife held by the little marine in front of him was definitely not inferior to his black knife knight? If the number of supreme swords had not been fixed by the predecessors, this knife would definitely be among them. Supreme sword level. The strong men present also quickly realized the extraordinariness of this knife, and their minds were different in an instant. However, this is not over yet. Kurosawa is not just pulling out the knife to play with nothing. When his knife is unsheathed, it will draw blood. Buzz buzz buzz. The nameless sound is like the wailing of hell devils. The surging curse power and the tyrannical sword energy condense, and then instantly turn into a flying slash that breaks through the air and cuts Moriya in the face. Shua. The LV3 technique, solution, is combined with the current LV5 swordsman's slash. This knife is extraordinary. A dark light flickered in the banquet hall, and a dark edge was reflected in everyone's eyes. Feeling the sharpness of the knife light, the strong men present couldn't help but feel a slight pain in their eyes. When this slash fell into Mihawk's eyes, he had already made a judgment in his heart. The slash that entered the realm of the great swordsman was mixed with energy he had never seen before, and the speed was faster than the ordinary great swordsman's slash. Interesting young man. The corners of Blackbeard's mouth slowly opened. This flying slash is incredible. It's a pity that he is a navy, otherwise I really want to recruit him. Bartholomew Big Bear's expression did not change. In his heart, he had already begun to calculate what the outcome would be if this slash fell on him. Doflamingo, who had originally found it boring, couldn't help but laugh evilly when he saw Kurosawa easily blocking Moriya's attack and counter-attacking at the same time. Foo, what an interesting guy. Even he felt a strong threat from this flying slash. If he died here, it would be easy for him, but today's meeting would be very exciting. Thinking of this, Doflamingo glanced at Sengoku, whose eyes were slightly gloomy at this time, but he obviously had no intention of attacking. From the knife swung by Kurosawa, Sengoku had already made a more accurate judgment of Kurosawa's strength. Such a sharp slash, it can be said that no one in the new navy of the same period can stop it, absolutely the first star of the navy. In the navy, there is really an extraordinary guy, it won't be long before this kid will be famous all over the world. In that huge war that is about to sweep across the entire Marineford. Doflamingo smiled evilly. Then Moria. How should you deal with it? As the flying slash came at him at high speed, Moria cried out in surprise. He never thought that this guy would not only block his attack at the last moment, but also dare to draw his sword against him. Dark bat, harden the armament color. In a hurry, Moria only had time to condense several dark bats and harden the armament color of his arms to resist. With just a swish, the dark bat was split in two by the flying slash, clang. The dark red slash slashed fiercely on Moria's arms, and a lot of sparks were rubbed out in just an instant. Soon, the terrifying force carried by the dark red slash made Moria's arms tremble. Under his horrified gaze, a trace of blood splashed on his arms, and then it was like being hit by a huge ship. The figure was suddenly blown away, smashing the wall of the banquet hall, and after knocking down two walls, it was buried by the fallen bricks and dust was raised. For a while, the banquet hall was silent. Ding! Congratulations to the host for the first confrontation with the 7 warlords of the sea. Get achievement rewards. The reward for the achievement is 5,000 points. Oh, this system is really smart. There are rewards for this. Kurosawa's mouth curled up, but in the eyes of everyone, it was like a mockery of the winner. The Navy soldiers looked at Kurosawa in shock. They never thought that Kurosawa would suddenly attack Gecko Moria, and his strength was so strong. With a flying slash, Gecko Moria was chopped off. That's the 7 warlords of the sea. It's known as the third force in this sea. Such an existence was chopped off by Kurosawa. He's not dead. Just when the Navy soldiers were confused. Ahem, a mere Navy sergeant dared to attack me. I'm one of the 7 warlords of the sea. A giant claw stretched out from the bricks, Moria coughed up blood, and still cursed. How dare you do this to me? Believe it or not, I'll quit and make your navy lack a huge fighting force when facing the Whitebeard pirates. Although Moria was roaring, no one in the banquet hall answered. F. Doflamingo leaned back in his chair, held his face with his hands and started laughing. What are you laughing at, fool? Moria was furious, his chest was heaving violently, his hands were still shaking uncontrollably, and a lot of blood was left on his arm. A hideous wound deep enough to see the bone was left on it. At this time, Moria already believed that Kurosawa definitely had the strength to defeat the Straw Hat Pirates. When he looked at Kurosawa again, his eyes had become frightened. It seems that after being defeated by Luffy, Moria's former strong heart seems to be regaining, and even the lost domineering aura is now condensed back. Otherwise, the slash just now would be enough to break his 2 arms. You take yourself too seriously, you are just a mere 7 warlords of the sea. If you dare to leave, the Navy will punish you on a chosen day. Kurosawa's eyes swept towards Moria, and the famous sword in his hand flashed a chilling light, reflecting on the latter's face. Kurosawa's words shocked the Navy soldiers in the banquet hall. Yes, isn't the 7 warlords of the sea just a pirate? Without the recognition of the world government, they will still be punished by the Navy. The Navy is the real overlord of this sea. What qualifications do the 7 warlords of the sea have to be arrogant in such an occasion? For a moment, the Navy soldiers couldn't help but hold their heads high, and their eyebrows were full of pride. Sengoku smiled knowingly after noticing this scene. This was the effect he wanted. And what Kurosawa said really hit the nail on the head. He was just a tool recruited by the government, a mere pirate. What a conceit. Sengoku looked at Kurosawa. He was a rare talent. Unlike the monster generals in the past, all of them were ugly or ferocious. He and Garp could be considered as the handsome ones. The more he looked, the more satisfied Sengoku was with Kurosawa. He had made up his mind to recommend Kurosawa as the benchmark of the new era navy. Are you looking for death? Moria's eyes were wide open, and he was obviously on the verge of a rage, but he was very afraid of Kurosawa's strength. Otherwise, he would not care about the meeting or not, and would have fought with him long ago. He was a world-famous Shichibukai. How could he be stepped on by such a guy? You dare to boast about your huge combat power when you can't even block my sword. Kurosawa's tone was calm, as if he was stating the facts. Vice Admiral Suru. Ahem. Okay, give me a face, and let's stop here. Foo. How nice it would be to let them fight. I think what Kurosawa said makes sense. Doflamingo is still fanning the flames, hoping that the world will not be in chaos. Kurosawa glanced at the guy wearing pink flame feathers. He was not surprised that Doflamingo knew his news. Ha. Blackbeard fiercely tore a piece of meat from his big meaty leg, and he was obviously looking forward to them fighting here. Mihawk looked at Kurosawa with a strong interest in his eyes. He thought that Roronoa Zoro, whom he met in the East China Sea, was a rare genius. Now it seems that this guy named Kurosawa has even more amazing potential. That's it. Look at my arm, it was almost cut off by this guy. Moria was still timid. I say, enough. This is the end of the matter. Do you understand? Suru's eyes stared at Moria, and a cold light flashed in his cloudy pupils, revealing a strong warning. As an old generation vice admiral, Suru, who was once known as the three heroes of the Navy together with Garp and Sengoku, His Majesty could not be violated. Moria soon became honest, but his eyes looking at Kurosawa were malicious and cold. Foo. Vice Admiral Suru, don't be so angry. Seeing that there was no good show to watch, Doflamingo said with some disappointment. This must be the rookie of the Navy who was famous in the Sabayati archipelago and killed 3 supernovas of the evil generation. It's really extraordinary to see him today. Quote. Faced with Doflamingo's praise, Kurosawa did not respond. It is very likely that Moria attacked him because of this guy's instigation. He is the same as Crocodile, who likes to play with people's hearts and use idiots as guns. To everyone's surprise, Sengoku suddenly stood up and walked straight towards Kurosawa. Under everyone's shocked gaze, Sengoku looked at Kurosawa with a smile. Welcome back, the hero of the Navy, Sergeant Kurosawa. Wow. Instantly, the banquet hall fell silent. Marshal Sengoku personally came forward to meet a sergeant. What was going on? Envy, jealousy, and admiration fell on Kurosawa. Kurosawa was also a little surprised. Marshal Sengoku, this is what I should do. Quote. Countless people were watching like this. Seeing that the atmosphere was in place, Zongguo felt that the time had come and his expression became solemn. Sergeant Kurosawa, I now officially appoint you as a Navy Colonel with the position of Navy Admiral. Wow, the Marines were in an uproar again. From Sergeant to Colonel, how many levels did they jump at once? Zongguo put his hands on Kurosawa's shoulders and continued. You performed well in the Sabayati archipelago, saving countless civilians and water and fire, and even killed 3 supernovas known as the worst generation. Not only did you severely damage the atmosphere of pirates, but you also set an example for the vast Navy. From now on, you are the benchmark of the new era of the Navy. All the Navy will learn from you, and the Navy is proud of you. Quote. Suru's eyes flickered slightly. The pressure that Sengoku had to withstand was not small. If he performed poorly in the next war with the Whitebeard pirates, it would be a huge blow to the dignity of Sengoku's Navy Admiral. This sudden scene made the 7 warlords present look different, but they were not stupid. As the Navy Admiral, Sengoku's actions at this critical moment were definitely not aimless. That is to say, Kurosawa was really regarded by Sengoku as the future of the Navy. Quote. Quote. After a short interlude, the 7 warlords of the sea meeting began. Its main purpose was to discuss the combat power of the personnel. With Kurosawa's deterrence and Sengoku's actions, this 7 warlords of the sea meeting was smoother than Suru expected. After Kurosawa's move, the originally tense atmosphere was strangely eased a lot, as if there was an outlet for venting, and it was no longer so tense. And the most honest among them was Gecko Moria, who was severely taught a lesson by Kurosawa. Towards the end of the meeting, Marshal Sengoku, I have a question to ask. Looking at Doflamingo with a malicious look on his face, Sengoku had to bite the bullet and replied. Ask any questions quickly. Marshal Sengoku, I really want to know, this time the opponent is different from usual, even if you mobilized 100,000 naval elites, but the opponent is Whitebeard, do you think, can win? Quote. After hearing this question, everyone present began to judge which side had a greater chance of winning, and at the same time, they also turned their eyes to Zhang Guo. As the highest commander of the Navy, his answer made people curious. After a moment of silence, Zhang Guo raised his head slightly, his face serious. This battle, the Navy will win. The old man was very angry. Wait for me, kid. The 7 warlords of the sea meeting ended, and everyone left one after another. Moria did not forget to say something harsh to Kurosawa before leaving. Although Moria knew very well in his heart that being praised by the Navy Marshal Sengoku on the spot basically established Kurosawa's unshakable position in the Navy in the future. As long as Sengoku is still in office, anyone who wants to touch Kurosawa must consider whether he can withstand the anger of a Navy Marshal. However, when you are in the rivers and lakes, how can you not say something harsh? In short, you can't lose face. Kurosawa, I'm looking forward to your performance. After Bartholomew Big Bear finished speaking, he slowly left with a book in his pocket. After today's events, he already had a general opinion of Kurosawa. His evaluation was, if he hadn't fallen early, he would have been the mainstay of the times. Ha 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 ha, Kurosawa, a mere 7 warlords. Ha ha ha. Blackbeard had a big belly. He could say that he was drinking and eating meat from beginning to end in the banquet hall. He was really full of wine and food. Kurosawa's eyes swept towards Teach. At this distance, those eyes made him feel very uncomfortable. The biggest ambitious man in the world of One Piece was about to show his hideous head. As a smart person, Blackbeard Teach could naturally see the undisguised disgust in Kurosawa's eyes, but it didn't matter. What about disgust? In his opinion, as long as there were common interests, they could become partners. The words, a mere 7 warlords, were even more to Teach's liking. What were 7 warlords? Even if he is one of the 4 emperors, it is not the end of his life. He, Blackbeard Teach, wants to be the only king in this world. Only short-sighted people will be bound by the title of Shichibukai, ha ha ha. With his eyes wide open, Blackbeard Teach smiled evilly. How about it, do you want to fight with me? Get lost, you are not worthy. Kurosawa spoke coldly. Even if he chose to become a pirate, he would not bother to associate with people like Blackbeard Teach. Ha ha ha, what a pity. Blackbeard Teach showed a cruel smile and then left. Foo-foo, boy, you are really high profile. Doflamingo, wearing a flamingo feather coat, stepped on pink high heels and walked past Kurosawa with his hands in his pockets. Kurosawa was speechless about this guy. In terms of high profile, who can be more high profile than you, Doflamingo? Doflamingo, out of kindness, I'll tell you a piece of news for free. Oh, Kurosawa raised his eyebrows. He was very curious about the news of the Joker in the underground world. Foo-foo-foo. Doflamingo slowly walked to Kurosawa's side and whispered in his ear, someone has already targeted you. You'd better be careful. Who? There should be a lot of people targeting me now. Kurosawa's expression remained unchanged. Foo-foo-foo. CP0, have you heard? Doflamingo said mysteriously. Kurosawa's face was stern when he heard the words. The dangerous aura made Doflamingo feel a little uncomfortable. After a moment of silence, Kurosawa slowly said, are you going to kill me? Foo-foo-foo, I thought you, who are fearless, would not believe me. This is all I can tell you. Don't say that I revealed it to you. Leaving this sentence, Doflamingo walked away swaggeringly. Looking at the arrogant walk, Kurosawa resisted the urge to draw his sword and chop him. Your information is useful to me. I will consider sparing your life in the future. Hearing this, Doflamingo paused and turned his head slightly. There seemed to be bulging veins on his forehead. Foo-foo-foo, what an arrogant kid. After that, Doflamingo left without looking back. In his opinion, although Kurosawa was very strong, it would take him many years to grow to the point where he could threaten him. He crawled out of the pile of dead bodies and experienced a real sea of blood. Now he is the largest arms supplier and transit station of the entire underground world. He has the identity of a celestial dragon in the white world and the support of the 4 emperors Kaido in the black world. Want to touch him? Who the hell is so brainless? Da da da. The tall and thin figure slowly approached. Feeling the sharp aura of the person behind him, Kurosawa knew who the person was without having to guess. Mihawk, who always had a cold face, rarely smiled. Kurosawa, your knife is very interesting. I hope you don't disgrace it. Kurosawa also smiled back. That's natural. I will take this sword and stand at the top of the world. Quote. Mihawk was startled when he heard the words, and his sharp eagle eyes stared at the blue eyes, as if he was talking about something that was just a daily thing. Take this sword and stand at the top of the world. Kurosawa's words shocked everyone around him. Say such words in front of the world's #1 swordsman, the meaning is self-evident. Very good, I'm looking forward to it. Mihawk's smile rose even more. Except for Shanks, he hasn't met an opponent worth his all for a long time. The 7 warlords of the sea are special pirates selected by the government's top leaders after discussions and layers of screening, in order to deal with the current situation. Sengoku came over with a serious voice, followed by Vice Admiral Suru. Kurosawa. Marshal Sengoku. Quote, Kurosawa, you have great potential, but this time the opponent is different from the past. The Navy has to face the most powerful pirate group in the world today. Their Captain Whitebeard, if no one stops him, he alone is enough to overthrow Marineford. You may think I'm joking, but the real top power has such a devastating ability. Looking at the serious face of Sengoku, Kurosawa knew how much pressure the Navy Marshal was facing at this time. But Sengoku still believed in himself and wanted to make himself a benchmark for the Navy in the new era under great pressure. Of course, risks and benefits coexist, and he will inevitably receive more attention from all parties in the future, but no one will refuse his request. In this war with the Whitebeard pirates, you only need to be responsible for the pirates below the captain level, and the rest will be taken care of by the vice admirals and admirals. What you need to do is to learn from the war and don't rush. The future is your stage to perform. Quote, Zangguo looked at Kurosawa with hope, and said earnestly. Kurosawa saluted in return. Understood, Marshal Zangguo. Looking at Kurosawa like this, Zangguo was very satisfied. Finally, there is a reliable successor. At least he is not like Garp and Kuzan, those fools who like to make trouble and give people a headache. Whitebeard, let's fight. Why should my navy be afraid of you? Bala bala bala. Bahia, Huo Shaoshan. Mei Exame, Marshal Zangguo, Morgans has already communicated. Hearing this, Zangguo showed a mysterious smile. Are you ready? Kurosawa. On the headlines of tomorrow's news. In the New World, a super giant ship shaped like a giant whale is wandering on the sea. The huge whale head and the eye-catching white-bearded skull pattern on the mast are well known in the New World. This is the exclusive symbol of the emperor of this sea, Whitebeard Newgate. Compared to the Navy headquarters, which was constantly gathering troops and revealing the seriousness before the huge war, the atmosphere on the Moby Dick seemed a little relaxed. Dad, do you think that strange bird would stand us up? A very sturdy man in cloth armor spoke with a powerful voice. Hearing Diamond George's words, the bad guy with a tuft of pineapple yellow hair on his head looked unkind. Hee, no one in this sea dares to treat our Whitebeard pirates like this. There was a tattoo on his chest that belonged to the Whitebeard pirates, and the lines of his abdominal muscles were particularly clear. If it weren't for the tricky yellow hair, I don't know how many girls would be fascinated. If he really dares to do this, I don't mind going to the newspaper office to make him a roasted bird. Gulala, Marco, don't be so excited. Really, it's not good for young people to always be so murderous. In the middle, a giant-like figure sat on the chair. A dense number of needles were inserted into the giant's body to give him an infusion. Judging from the speed of the liquid flow, his physical condition was not optimistic. For ordinary people, he could only stay awake in dreams. However, in such a physical condition, Whitebeard Newgate still drank despite the dissuasion, which caused the beautiful nurse and his sons beside him to worry. Dad, how many times have I told you to drink less? Flower Sword Beasta frowned. Although Marco on the side did not agree with drinking, he had no way to deal with Newgate. Dad, can't you be a little restrained? Whitebeard laughed nonchalantly. Gulala. Don't worry, sons, this little bit of wine is nothing, I am Whitebeard. Dad, Captain Marco, a guy who looks like a strange bird said he wants to see Dad. Tisk, Here he comes, I thought he didn't dare, let him come. Marco pouted. Oh, respected Mr. Newgate. Seeing is believing. I am so rude for arriving only today. The voice came before the person arrived. As soon as Morgan stepped onto the deck, he took off his hat to show respect. Marco's voice suddenly sounded in Morgan's ears. You are a polite guy. If you dare to disrespect your father, I will be the first to strip you naked. Morgan's was startled. With his insight, he did not even notice Marco's action. You are so fast. You are worthy of being the captain of His Majesty Whitebeard's first team. Morgan's opened his mouth and flattered again. Your Majesty Whitebeard is really domineering and majestic. From a distance, I was frightened by His Majesty's domineering, and trembling and breathing was not smooth. I guess his fighting power is still as good as before. As he said, Morgan's glanced at Whitebeard quietly, secretly observing the latter's reaction. With so many tubes inserted, it seems that Whitebeard's body is indeed as rumored, and it is no longer the same as before. Then his fighting power must be greatly reduced. But, what is this trembling pressure? After all, Morgan's had experienced many ups and downs, but in front of Whitebeard, he still felt the pressure like a mountain. Listening to Morgan's flattery, Whitebeard continued to drink by himself, his expression did not change. Okay, put away your journalistic tricks and get straight to the point. My sons and I will have a party later. Ha ha, His Majesty Whitebeard really saw through my thoughts at a glance, so I will start the interview directly. Seeing Whitebeard being so generous, Morgan's did not waste words and immediately took out a small notebook from behind. First question, Mr. Newgate, the Navy headquarters has mobilized 100,000 elite troops, and all the 3 admirals of the Navy are present, plus the 7 warlords of the sea, and the main battle is at the Navy headquarters, Marineford. Faced with such a lineup, Mr. Newgate really has the confidence to rescue Ace. After speaking, Morgan stared at Whitebeard with his big eyes, as if to capture every detail of the latter's facial expression. After hearing Morgan's question, everyone turned their attention to Whitebeard. Faced with such a luxurious lineup, it's hard to say that there was no emotion in their hearts. That's of course fake, especially the veteran pirates. They know the horror of a Navy admiral, not to mention that this time, all 3 admirals of the Navy are present, which can be said to be unprecedented. Facing such an opponent, even the 4 Emperor's pirates who dominate the sea feel unprecedented pressure. However, Whitebeard just grinned and took a big sip of wine. Gulala, that's my son. Morgan's was shocked when he heard the words, what does this mean? After a silence, Morgan's chose to ask, do you think he can be rescued? Marco interrupted in a bad tone, of course, don't you understand this? Morgan's quickly wrote something down and continued. Then the next question, facing the highest combat power of the Navy, Admiral, with Mr. Newgate's current physical condition, can he win? Gulala, I am Whitebeard. Morgan's was stunned, and then continued. If the Navy hero Garp takes action, what do you think is the chance of winning? Gulala, I am Whitebeard. Whitebeard was just drinking, Morgan's didn't know where to start. Okay, Mr. Newgate, I admire your confidence very much, but there is a very remarkable newcomer in the Navy, I think you should be interested. Puff. Everyone laughed when they heard it, and Marco said mockingly, a mere newcomer, can he turn the world upside down? Morgan's. No, Mr. Marco, this new guy is not simple. He has only joined the Navy for less than a month, but he has already shown amazing combat power, killing 3 supernovas in a row, and even defeating the Straw Hat pirates who have been in the limelight recently. He can also fight with Pluto Rayleigh and injure him. Even the Navy Marshal Sengoku sent someone to contact me, asking him to put him on the front page of tomorrow's news to create an image of a future Navy benchmark. Marco just learned about the last piece of news, but Whitebeard still said the same thing. Gulala, I am Whitebeard. Morgan's was helpless. It seemed that after taking the risk, the result of the interview was not satisfactory. The last question, when the Whitebeard pirates, who are known as the strongest men in modern times and reigning over the New World, face the Navy, the overlord of the sea, who do you think is the challenger? Hearing this, Whitebeard drank the remaining wine, the Navy is the challenger. Marco, who was also extremely confident, clasped his fists in front of his chest, Dad, I will win. Whitebeard grinned, I will win, because I am the strongest. After Morgan's left, the Whitebeard pirates started the banquet. As for the rising star of the Navy, Kurosawa, mentioned by Morgans, he was completely ignored. Back in the newspaper office, Morgans had already thought about how to arrange tomorrow's front-page news. President, will you offend both the Navy and Whitebeard by writing like this? Don't worry, this is the effect we want. Tomorrow's headlines will definitely sell like hotcakes. Morgans raised a smug smile at the corner of his mouth. On the second day, a headline in the World Economic News shocked people all over the world and triggered a heated discussion. The strongest man in modern times versus the strongest navy in the new era. Who is the challenger? The interviewee Edward Newgate said in person, the Navy is the challenger. Are you sure you can win this huge war that is destined to shake the world? Edward Newgate. I will win. Why, Edward Newgate? Because I am the strongest. The peerless genius that appeared in the Navy, even Marshal Sengoku called it the future of the Navy. What do you think of this? No text here with photos of Edward Newgate hugging beautiful women and drinking. Note, there is no trace of PS. When people all over the world were boiling with excitement after seeing this headline. In the new world, on the Moby Dick. Dad, this silly bird is just as you said, making up stories again. Marco looked at the morning newspaper with a relaxed expression. I should have cut off his wings and roasted him. He actually tarnished my father's image. Flower Sword Vista was so angry that his teeth itched, and he pulled out both swords, rubbing them together and producing a lot of sparks. Whitebeard said nonchalantly, Gulala, let him be, after all, we are notorious pirates. At the same time, on the other side of Marineford, in the office of the Navy Admiral. Zhang Guo's face was about to turn black when he looked at the newspaper. This fool, who taught him to write like this? Where is the dignity of the Navy? Ha ha ha. Zhang Guo, don't be so angry. You know Morgans. I think this headline is very interesting. In the office, Garp listened to his subordinates laughing at the newspaper. The mountain is on fire. Didn't we say that everything has been communicated? The Navy is the challenger. What a joke. A cross suddenly appeared on Zhang Guo's forehead. On the daughter island, Monkey D. Luffy has tamed the Empress and learned about the huge war that will take place in Marineford. After seeing Kurosawa's handsome face, Luffy immediately recalled the scene of being knocked unconscious by a blow that day, and a fierce look appeared on his face. This fool actually beat Nami and the others like that. Kurosawa, I must defeat you. But first, I have to save Ace. A tall and beautiful figure came from behind Luffy. At this time, Boa Hancock was already fascinated by Luffy. She said flatteringly with a smile, Luffy, your enemy is my enemy. Thank you, Hammock. Brother Kurosawa, can you not go? Rimuru threw himself into Kurosawa's arms, crying like a pear blossom in the rain, so pitiful. Kurosawa said helplessly, it's just a small fight, don't worry, and there are admirals and many vice admirals in the front, I'm just a bystander. The boss lady Lilia sighed lightly. This time the opponent is the Whitebeard pirates. Whitebeard's reputation is on par with the pirate King Roger. Even a 3-year-old child would stop crying when hearing this name. In this level of battle, Kurosawa is likely to become cannon fodder in the war. Rimuru knew this. She was not that stupid girl, just sobbed in Kurosawa's arms, liar. After a Kurosawa-style comfort, the mother and daughter were finally successfully transferred. Kurosawa returned to the apartment in Marineford, bent down, and began to exercise day after day. Push-ups +1. Push-ups +1. Push-ups +1. After completing the training, he admired his muscle lines for a while. System, check the bounty value. Normal bounty value, 5,000 points. Billion level, bounty value, 15,600 points. After working hard for so long, it's finally time to bear fruit again. Kurosawa smiled slightly. The system will add some points to me. Bite. Congratulations to the host for injecting 3,000 points of ordinary bounty value. Domain: the demon subduing chef has been upgraded to LV2. Bite. Congratulations to the host for noticing the 100 billion level bounty value. Domain: the demon subduing chef has been upgraded to LV3. The bounty value consumed by skills above level 3 can be said to be doubled. Glancing at the remaining skills again, Kurosawa felt that he should continue to maximize the effect of the natural fighter. Bite. Congratulations to the host for injecting 2,000 normal bounty points and 100 billion bounty points. Technique 8 is upgraded to LV2. Byte. Congratulations to the host for injecting 300 billion level bounty value. Physical skills upgraded to LV3. Bring up the system panel. Character: Kurosawa, human race. Abilities: Overlord Color Hockey LV4, Heaven Defying 6 Eyes LV3, Virtual Style LV1, Magic Reversal Kang LV3, Magic Reversal He LV3, Domain Infinite Space LV3, King of Curses LV1, Art Explanation LV3, Art 8 LV2, Mystery Open LV1, Domain Conquering Demons and Cooking LV3, Physical Technique LV3, Swordsmanship LV5, Natural Fighter LV3, Armed Color Hockey LV3, Reversal Technique LV2, Unlimited Technique LV2. Position: Navy Captain. Billion level bounty value: 1,600 points. Item: the famous sword, Yami, Supreme Sword level. Prestige level LV3, your justice is praiseworthy. My skill tree. Looking at so many skills, if he didn't have the bonus of being a natural fighter, which can be called a system substitute, he might not be able to use them. Sometimes he has too many skills, which is not a good thing. Kurosawa looked out the window and smiled. Whitebeard pirates, if I remember correctly, Whitebeard's bounty is more than 5 billion. Bring it on. A few days later, there are still 8 hours until Ace's public execution. Chapter 51. The soldiers were busy all day, and the soldiers were busy all day. Everyone assemble. Everyone assemble. Woo. This day was destined to be an extraordinary day. Before dawn, the deafening sirens had already resounded in Marineford. Unprecedentedly, 100,000 elite naval soldiers mobilized from all over the world woke up from their sleep at this moment. Of course, there were also naval forces that were unable to sleep due to excitement or various reasons. At this time, they heard the horn sound and got up and rushed to the assembly. Whitebeard pirates are coming. I, Asan, will definitely go down in history and chop off Whitebeard's head this time. Go down in history. If you don't brush your teeth, your mouth will look like history. Quote. That's Whitebeard. Aren't you afraid? Quote. Amidst the noisy voices, 100,000 elite Navy troops are gathering quickly. On the Marineford Square, a line of sturdy figures exuding the aura of a strong man are lined up in front. They are the elite vice admirals from all over the world and the vice admirals of the Navy headquarters. Report to Vice Admiral Huo Shaoshan. All members of the No. 2 training camp have assembled, please give instructions. Huo Shaoshan looked around at everyone with a serious face, then smiled, little guys, don't die so soon. Miguel looked firm. Don't worry, instructor. Even if I die, it will be after I pluck out a layer of Whitebeard's skin. Huo Shaoshan, a little devil with ambition. After saying that, Huo Shaoshan turned his eyes to Kurosawa in the crowd. You too, kid, don't rush too far this time, or I can't save you. Ding. The host's current situation is detected. You have a new life choice. Life choice 1. Change the course of the war on your own and help your camp win the final victory. Reward. Distributed according to performance. Life choice 2. Turn against the pirates in the war, join the pirate camp, and help Whitebeard rescue Port Gizdi. Ace. Reward. Domineering hockey upgraded to LV5. Life choice 3. Kill as many people as possible, fight against the Navy and the Whitebeard pirates at the same time, and survive successfully. Reward. King, world class. Kurosawa met Huo Shaoshan's eyes. Don't worry, instructor, I know my limits. For some reason, looking at Kurosawa's confident face, Huo Shaoshan always had an inexplicable premonition. In this war, Kurosawa might bring everyone unexpected surprises. The real-time images of Marineford have been projected to all parts of the world by Den Den Mushi. Well-equipped and extremely tough Navy soldiers are pouring out in an endless stream, neatly lined up in the square, and heavy artillery is quickly set up under the orderly command. 50 huge warships surround the periphery of Marineford, like an insurmountable mountain. Ordinary pirate groups would be frightened and flee in panic if they only see them from a distance. One by one, vice admirals wearing coats of justice and giant vice admirals as big as mountains arrive one after another. The extremely spectacular scene directly shows the strength of the Navy headquarters to the world. And this also declares the determination of the Navy headquarters to win. In the first half of the Grand Line, people were watching the live video of Den Den Mushi and were having a heated discussion. As the Whitebeard pirates strong, the Navy has dispatched so many troops. No matter how you look at it, the Navy will win. So many warships and heavy artillery, and even giants are participating in the battle. Yes, no matter what, how could the Navy headquarters lose? Don't underestimate the Whitebeard pirates. Rumor has it that their leader, Whitebeard, has the power to destroy the world. Destroy the world? Don't be kidding. Look, those are the 7 warlords of the sea. But why are there only 5? Look at the execution platform right below Fang, that is the legendary highest combat power of the Navy. The 3 admirals of the Navy. By the way, didn't the Navy say that a new star appeared? Tisk, just a new star, how much impact can it have on a war of this magnitude? That's true, I think even the most famous Whitebeard would be exhausted after killing 100 Marines. 100,000 people, the Navy headquarters has won. Quote. In the second half of the Grand Line, countless notorious pirates are also waiting for the start of this war. Ha ha ha, Navy headquarters, welcome the wrath of Whitebeard. Fight, fight, it's best to turn the world upside down and both sides lose. Injury, by then, no one in the new world will be able to control us. This is Whitebeard, the pinnacle of our pirates' combat power. Whitebeard, sink Marineford on our behalf. As time slowly passed, it was less than 3 hours before the execution, and Portgas d'Ace, the fuse of this war, had been taken to the execution platform. Marshal Sengoku and Garp walked side by side. Sengoku, Garp, I'm going to make everything public, do you have any objections? Garp said gloomily, whatever you say, I'll go down first. As Sengoku walked up to the execution platform, the soldiers below the stage couldn't help but feel a little confused. There was no such link in the previous battle arrangement, right? Under the attention of the world, Sengoku picked up the Den Den Mushi. Before the war begins, I have something to tell you. Portgas d'Ace, why is this man being publicly executed today? And his death, what a great significance it has for the world. Kurosawa looked up at the execution platform. Is it finally about to begin? If he remembered correctly, Whitebeard should have arrived after Sengoku finished speaking. It's really exciting. Sengoku, Ace, tell the world who your father is. Ace, my father is Whitebeard. Sengoku, no, Ace, there's nothing wrong, my father is only Whitebeard, no one else. Sengoku, on that small island, your mother Portgas d'Luju escaped our search by forcibly keeping you in her body for 20 months. Then, a child who inherited the most evil bloodline in the world was born. And your father is none other than the Pirate King, Goldo Roger. Quote. 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 As Sengoku finished speaking, it was as if the whole world had been muted. In such an occasion, and it was said by Sengoku again, no one would question the authenticity of the news. After a brief silence, uproar broke out all over the world. Fire Fist Ace is actually the son of Pirate King Goldo Roger. Kill him. The blood of such an evil guy must not remain in the world. At the same time, in the Marine headquarters, the Navy soldiers who heard this in the Marineford Square were also furious at this moment. The sense of justice brought by the determination to execute Ace reached its peak. In this battle, justice will prevail. Soon, the Marines in the watchtower first discovered the abnormality on the sea. It appeared. Everyone, prepare for battle. Sengoku's forehead was sweating coldly, it suddenly appeared. How did he do it? Quote. On the sea, pirate ships came from the fog. It's a large fleet of pirate ships. Where is Whitebeard? Check it out quickly. Ranger Knight Doma, Lord Thunder Magaikui, Brother DeKalb, Big Whirlpool Spider Squad. Each of them is a tough character, and they are all famous pirate captains who have occupied a place in the New World. There are 43 pirate groups in total, and Whitebeard and his captain have not been found yet. But there is no doubt that these are all pirates from Whitebeard's pirate group. This is impossible, he must be there too. Pay attention to the sea. Seeing the pirate ships approaching, Doflamingo began to get excited. If it weren't for Sengoku's request, he would have sat on the rocking chair and started eating melons. Foo. This is interesting, it's really exciting. Come on, Whitebeard. Quote. Gurgle, Gurgle, gurgle. A large number of bubbles floated on the sea surface near the harbor of Marineford, and Sengoku noticed it at this time. So that's it. Are all their ships coated and then move from the bottom of the sea? But in such a short time. Splash! A huge wave rushed into the sky, and a huge whale ship broke through the sea surface. It's the Moby Dick. As the Navy soldiers exclaimed, 3 more ships of the Whitebeard pirates entered the bend. Captain Marco of the 1st Division, all 14 captains are on board. The decisive battle is about to begin, but the air at this time is suddenly a little quiet. Ding, ding, ding. The Moby Dick sent out a series of metal-knocking sounds towards the execution platform. Under the execution platform, Borsellino couldn't help but stick his head out, with a curious look on his face. Gurgle, Sengoku, we haven't seen each other for decades. Quote. A tall figure stood at the bow, with an overwhelming aura. It was the captain of the 4 Emperor's pirates who ruled the New World, the strongest man in the world, Whitebeard. Whitebeard. Sengoku looked at his former powerful enemy. He clenched his teeth. Whitebeard smiled. Is my son okay? Otherwise, you Navy should be prepared to be annihilated. Faced with such a lineup, Whitebeard still made a harsh statement. Even as a pirate, the whole world was shocked by his courage at this moment. Sengoku, do you think you can win? Gulala. You will win. Whitebeard grinned with his white teeth, and his smile was extremely confident. The decisive battle begins. The declaration of victory from the world's strongest man. The battle was a battle, and the battle was a battle. Countless Navy ships were on high alert. Although the main fleet of the Whitebeard pirates directly crossed the first line of defense of the giant ship encirclement of the Navy headquarters through a surprise attack. But in front of them were the 7 warlords of the sea and 100,000 elite Navy soldiers on the coast. The third line of defense was composed of elite vice admirals. The fourth line of defense was the 3 admirals of the Navy under the execution platform. On the coast, Doflamingo looked at Hawkeye Mihawk curiously. FFFFFFFFF. So what about this time? You are not going to stand by and watch as usual. Of course, Mihawk ignored Doflamingo's words. Mariah smiled slyly. He. Facing the Shichibukai, the 3 admirals of the Navy and 100,000 elite Navy soldiers on my side, how are you going to attack? Whitebeard. Boya Hancock, dressed in a purple robe, had no intention of fighting at this time, and was still worried about Luffy. Warring states. What a big tone, everyone, be alert. The opponent is Whitebeard, maybe we will lose. Wait a moment, Ace. After Whitebeard finished speaking, he put the Kusugawa cutter aside, took a horse stance, folded his hands in front of his chest to accumulate strength, and then suddenly shook the void on both sides. Boom. Under the puzzled eyes of 100,000 elite Navy soldiers. The air that was punched by Whitebeard's fists actually had visible cracks. These cracks spread rapidly in the void like spider webs, and then boom! The terrifying vibration force was transmitted to the sea. Under Whitebeard's deliberate control, countless ocean currents began to vibrate and condense, and then gradually gathered into supergiant waves with a volume far beyond common sense. Under the violent shaking of the earth, several giant waves rushed into the sky, each of which was as huge as the headquarters of Marineford, and in just a blink of an eye, they had exceeded the top of Marineford. Countless Marines stared at this scene with their eyes wide open. Looking at the waves that covered the sky and the sun, no one would doubt that once such a wave fell. I am afraid that at least 2/3 of the 100,000 naval elites deployed in Marineford Square will be defeated in one fell swoop. Kobe looked terrified. What a joke, is this the power of Whitebeard? Although he was punished to clean the toilet, for a battle of this level, even though Kobe is currently a toilet cleaner, he was mobilized. Kurosawa, a naval soldier, looked up and saw with his own eyes that the visual impact brought by the waves that were enough to engulf a giant island was truly unparalleled. On the Moby Dick, Whitebeard smiled confidently at the reactions of the crowd, and the captains under his command did the same. This is an attack from the world's strongest man. How should the Navy respond? Looking at this scene, Ace on the execution platform seemed to see hope, and pictures of the past flashed back in his mind. Doflamingo laughed in amazement. What a terrible power, fuff. This blow will definitely hurt the Navy. Under the desperate gaze of many Navy soldiers. All Allah, Shua. A blue figure jumped up from just below the execution platform, and actually jumped to a height of 100 meters directly by relying on physical strength. Kuzan stretched out his arms in the sky, and the ultimate ice power condensed in his palms, and then two extreme ices containing even air condensed shot out towards the shocking waves in the sky. Ice Age. Kuzan's voice resounded throughout the venue. In the shocked eyes of countless people, the waves that could destroy a giant island quickly turned into ice. In just a breath, the surging waves surrounding the Navy headquarters were directly frozen. The opening of destruction from the world's strongest man was resolved just like that. It's Admiral Kuzan. This is the strength of the Admiral. Are you scared, pirates? Whitebeard stared at the figure in the sky. Aokiji, you little brat. Kuzan looked at Whitebeard, who was hundreds of meters away from him, put his hands in front of him, and condensed an ice spear. Although this move looks ordinary, only those who are familiar with it know that. Even if the high-level armed color domineering is entangled, it still cannot resist the extreme cold. Ice Cube, two thorns. Kuzan blew out cold air, and shot a deadly ice spear towards Whitebeard, and then the latter just smiled, raised his hand and punched the air. Gulala. The invisible space shook, and the extremely hard ice spear was shaken before it could get close to Whitebeard. Crushed, the invisible shock force was still powerful, and it penetrated Kuzan's body fiercely. But the latter was obviously prepared. Before the shock force came, Kuzan had already elementalized his body. Crack. With a bang, a ball of ice fell into the sea. Kuzan stretched out his palm, and the power of ice froze the sea surface instantly. At the same time, the Moby Dick that sneaked into the inner bay was also frozen. What are you afraid of? We have a general to support us. Bombardment. Bang bang bang. As the cannons were fired, a large number of pirates also jumped off the Moby Dick. The war officially started at this moment. Amid the shouts of countless people charging, even Flower Sword Vista, the captain of the 5th Division of the Whitebeard Pirates, joined the battle. In the Navy camp, the vice admirals were also ready to move. Soldiers, this battle is for justice. Show your skills and defeat all evil. Kill. On the execution platform, Zhang Guo looked at the white-cloaked figure in the distance with displeasure. He knew without looking that Whitebeard was probably staring at the battlefield with a smile on his face. This fool, if someone could attack the commander directly, the morale would definitely increase. It's a pity that the general's combat power needs to be reserved to guard the execution platform. Where the vice admirals are. Grandma He, let us kill the enemy here, you old man can drink tea in the back. I am not that old yet. Huo Shaoshan was helpless when he heard this, and his eyes swept towards the soldiers, but he did not find Kurosawa. Strange, where did this guy go? In the sky above Marineford, only a few people noticed that a figure appeared here at some point. Sakaski's eyebrows showed doubt. Kurosawa. Why is he there? Borisolino also found it, and his mouth opened and closed. Wow, he can fly too. Whitebeard looked at the figure in the air, a little confused. He had not read the newspaper that day, so naturally he didn't know who Kurosawa was. Marco, who was always paying attention to every move on the battlefield, frowned. He looked at Kurosawa in the air. That guy is the new star of the Navy, what does he want to do? Ha ha ha, grandstanding, what a stupid move. Many pirates also laughed after noticing it. In the sky, Kurosawa's hair moved with the wind, and his blue eyes flashed with infinite brilliance, as if the dark power from hell was surging around him crazily. The huge concentrated curse power even distorted the space. Forward Formula Kang, reverse Formula He. 2 light balls, one red and one blue, were generated in the air. Kurosawa began to seal with his palms, speaking with confidence. 9 principles, polarized light, chaotic sound, between the inside and the outside. The complete version of the spell, the complete version of the seal, and the curse power mobilized to the limit. Hypostyle Z. The purple light bloomed above Marineford, the target. Whitebeard. The sky was full of purple light, and the sky was full of turmoil. What is that? The purple light blooming in the sky above Marineford shone in everyone's eyes. Under the real-time broadcast of the Den Den Mushi projection, people all over the world also appreciated the dangerous and beautiful picture at this moment. Is this the latest technology of the Navy? Or has another admiral taken action? On a big tree in the Sabayati archipelago, a white-haired figure sat on the giant tree. It was the Pluto Rayleigh who fought with Kurosawa that day. At this time, he stared at the picture intently. Judging from the shining purple light, with his decades of experience in bloody battles, if this move is not a show, its power is definitely far beyond common sense. It has even reached the level of power that can threaten the four emperors. Who is it? Aokiji can't be, and Akainu and Kizaru's abilities are different. Is there another extraordinary person in the Navy? Thinking of this, Rayleigh couldn't help but think of the Navy boy with blue eyes a few days ago. Could it be that boy? No, he shouldn't have grown to this extent after not seeing him for a few days. On the battlefield of Marineford, the purple light shining above his head was like a second sun rising, especially after Kuzan used his ability to freeze the entire battlefield. Through continuous mirror reflection, the purple light almost illuminated every corner of the battlefield. Moria was puzzled by the purple light. Logically, there should be no one in the Navy who could use this move. Doflamingo spread his hands and laughed. FFFFFFFFF. Who is doing this? The Navy. Even the pirate queen Boa Hancock, who was originally immersed in Luffy, was pulled back by this wave of thought. Her charming eyes revealed a deep confusion and shock. Is this the latest technology of Vegapunk? Bartholomew Kuma held a book with his mouth slightly open. He was transformed into a mechanical eye and activated the special perspective mode to see clearly that in the purple light, it was Kurosawa's figure. Mihawk, who always looked down on the world, had a flash of shock in his eyes at this time. As the world's #1 swordsman, his insight and judgment were beyond the imagination of ordinary people. Even from a long distance, Mihawk could know how terrible the power of the energy contained in this purple light would be once it exploded. Kuzan put his hands in his pockets and looked up at the sky. The momentum is not small. Under the execution platform, Borsellino's sunglasses were reflected in purple. Wow, it's so scary. Kurosawa. Sakazuki smiled. Whitebeard, let's see how you deal with it. Zangwo opened his mouth wide. Who is there? Look at the target. Is it to attack Whitebeard? But the intention is too obvious. Ace, who was kneeling on the ground and handcuffed, had an ugly face. Dad. Garp, who was still picking his nose, stopped what he was doing and stared blankly at the sky. It's as powerful as Roger back then. There is such a person in the Navy. How come I don't know? Amid the discussions, the red and blue lights, the purple light fluctuations produced by the collision of the balls became stronger and stronger. The surging and twisted purple seemed to carry an extremely strange aura. Even the captains of the Whitebeard pirates, who had experienced hundreds of battles, felt a strong sense of uneasiness after seeing it. Among them, Marco, who had been watching the entire battlefield, looked particularly solemn. Is this thing made by that new star of the Navy? What a joke, even I feel the danger. Whitebeard's eyes shrank slightly, and his eyes stared straight at the gradually spreading purple. The energy pressure formed by this purple reminded him, a top strong man, of the battle of the year, the moves used by the arrogant hero, Pirate King Gall D. Roger. God Avoidance, a move that can only be performed by combining the top domineering color domineering with the top swordsmanship. Now, this unknown kid in front of him actually made him feel the same sense of oppression as when he faced this move back then. Gullah la la. Besides being afraid, Whitebeard became more and more excited. High in the sky, Kurosawa's hair fluttered, and the purple meaning was contained in his control to the extreme. Hypostyle C. The next moment, it bloomed brilliantly. Buzz. A huge purple ball of light flashed out in an instant, and wherever it passed, there was a dark purple distortion visible to the naked eye, as if the space could not withstand the collapse of this energy being crushed by it. Exclamation mark. The next second, the purple void G arrived in front of Whitebeard at an astonishing speed, and the latter's pupils were completely occupied by the purple light at this moment. Immortal Thistle. The phoenix burning with blue flames flew across the sky, and the two wings ignited with immortal fire spun wildly at high speed, condensing into an indestructible shield. Marco stared at the approaching purple with confidence, because with this move, relying on the immortal flame and powerful domineering magic, even if a guy like Kaido came, he could not break through in a short time. Then, Void G and Phoenix March collided brazenly. The scene was like a huge high-speed train carrying violent thunder crossing a wormhole and hitting a powerful beast burning with fire feathers. Clang! The false mass of void G exploded, and just as it came into contact, it melted half of Marco's cheek. But under the effect of the undying flame, the half of his face that should have melted actually began to recover. Seeing this, Marco smiled. He had already felt the power of the purple light. The power was indeed impressive, but as long as he could not break through his defense in the first place, he would win. Even if it was an attack from the 4 emperors, it would never come from me, ha. Before he finished speaking, Marco realized something was wrong. What's wrong with this attack? Why is the pain so intense? With a start, Marco discovered that the power of this void style was far more than just the surface. In theory, even if this purple light was very powerful, it would not be to the point where he could not bear it, but the regeneration speed of his undying flame, why did it become so slow? It was as if there was some kind of power that suppressed the regeneration of the undying flame. This is unscientific. However, others don't know Marco's situation. What they see is that Marco relied on his body to withstand this seemingly devastating attack. The Navy soldier looked ugly. It's Whitebeard's captain of the first team. Phoenix Marco. Well done, Captain Marco. The pirates cheered and encouraged. Sakaski frowned. Marco's defensive ability was beyond his expectations. If he faced him later, he would have to increase the dosage of the Hades dog. Sengoku gritted his teeth and felt sorry that this move didn't work. It almost pulled down the opponent's coach. Even Whitebeard showed a proud smile on his face after seeing Marco block this attack. It's really worthy of my son, Marco, to do it, huh? Before Whitebeard finished speaking, the collision scene in the sky suddenly changed. The purple light was actually after a burst of burning, and suddenly rolled over. Dad, be careful. The pain caused by the cursed attack was beyond reason. Kurosawa's cursed attack was now under the blessing of the Curse King. Even though Marco's blue immortal flame regenerated very quickly, it could not withstand the powerful attack of the hollow Shiki. Marco's body was devoured by the purple of the hollow Shiki. The pain caused by the cursed attack was beyond common sense. Even Marco, who had such endurance, could not manage his facial expressions. Oh, of course, Marco's face was no longer in shape. If it could be a human face, Marco would definitely be twisted into a. In the past, the pain of wounds regenerated with the immortal flame was almost non-existent, but facing this purple light, he actually felt that the pain was a little unbearable. Under such heavy pressure, his regeneration ability collapsed even faster, and then he could no longer maintain it. Dad, be careful. Almost at the moment of shouting this sentence, the purple light was less than 5 meters away from Whitebeard. Within this distance, Whitebeard's skin could directly feel the stinging pain brought by the hollow style. The violent purple will that was about to crush everything. At this distance, the other captains of the Whitebeard pirates had no time to react at all. Then, under the shocking attention of the world, Whitebeard was forced to take action. Bang! Whitebeard punched out with his left fist. Under the pressure of time, he only had time to mobilize part of the fruit ability and a few domineering powers, but despite this, such a punch was enough to make a vice admiral lose his combat effectiveness. The giant fist with the power of shock slammed into the void-style sea. Crack, crack, large cracks spread rapidly, and the violent purple began to tremble violently. Ignoring the people's breath, he stared at this confrontation without daring to breathe, until the shock force created by Whitebeard was like an invisible storm and competed with the purple light of the void-style sea. On the screen, one purple and one white formed 2 areas. Whitebeard blocked it. On the bow of the Moby Dick, this huge ship that had been safe and sound for who knows how many times it had experienced the baptism of war, now appeared in a large area of fragmentation in the confrontation between the two. Then, under the wide-eyed gaze of Whitebeard, the terrifying void-style sea suddenly exploded, like a deep space tunnel that completely swallowed it. Buzz, boom, boom. On this ice-blue battlefield, under the witness of the world, a deep purple tunnel that almost crossed Marineford was shocking and eye-catching. After running over Whitebeard, the void-style sea did not slow down, and it blasted him to the other side of the second giant ship before it barely stopped. If Whitebeard had not resisted with all his strength, this blow might have pushed him directly into the inner bay of Marineford. However, in this way, Whitebeard almost endured a complete blow of the void-style sea with the maximum output. But he had no choice. After all, if he did not dissipate the power of this move, he would become a drowned chicken in front of the whole world. It's okay to lose face, but it will greatly affect morale. For such a war, it is absolutely unacceptable to Whitebeard. Quote, on the battlefield of Marineford at this time, except for the roar caused by the explosion of the virtual type, all other sounds almost disappeared. Countless people stared at the end of the purple tunnel. They were eager to know what the condition of Whitebeard was after resisting this attack. People from all over the world were talking about it. Will Whitebeard die just like that? Is it possible? After all, the power of that move is simply terrifying. Even Marco can't stop it. By the way, how is Marco? On the ice, a ball of blue flame was slowly condensing into a human shape, but the condensation speed was abnormally slow. Marco, who finally condensed into a mouth, looked up with concern. He didn't care about the severe pain coming from all over his body, and was about to fly into the sky to find Whitebeard's figure. Dad. At this time, the Moby Dick was already in tatters. The entire head was crushed and collapsed. From the middle of the hull, a very deep crack was chiseled out, like a plowed land. After such a blow, even if the Whitebeard pirates could win this battle, the Moby Dick could no longer return. The pirates climbed up from all over the ship. If Whitebeard hadn't blocked most of the power of the hollow-style sea, those who stayed on the ship would have been wiped out. Quote, Dad, are you okay? Quote, asshole, how dare you attack Dad? At this time, the director pointed the Den Den Mushi camera at the end of the purple tunnel. As the deep purple collapse slowly dissipated, Whitebeard's face was revealed. Whitebeard's battle robe was a little tattered, and there was still purple on many parts of his body, especially on his left hand, which was covered with a rich purple-black color. That was the residual curse power that could corrode the human body. But the most eye-catching thing was the bright red that kept flowing out from the corner of Whitebeard's mouth. Whitebeard is injured. The man who claims to be the strongest in the world is actually injured. Wow, the whole world was in uproar. The Navy soldiers raised their arms and shouted, while the pirates showed fear in their eyes. Just at the beginning, their backbone, the strongest man, the Emperor of the Sea, the old man Whitebeard, was injured. And even with Marco's interception, he looked a little embarrassed. The atmosphere began to change quietly, and the balance of victory in this war began to tilt towards the Navy. FFFFFFFFF. Who is it? That's Whitebeard. Quote, Doflamingo laughed with his head tilted back, and Boa Hancock was also shocked. If she were to attack like that, the result would be unpredictable. Whitebeard frowned and looked up at a certain place, his tiger eyes full of cruelty. At this moment, he was being devoured by the remaining cursed power of hollow-style sea, and at the same time, he also felt an extraordinary pain. Following Whitebeard's gaze, the director also turned the camera to the sky at the right time. At the opening of the purple tunnel, a black-haired figure stood proudly. Rayleigh of the Sabayati Archipelago's eyes flickered and met the eyes of the protagonist in the picture. Then Rayleigh opened his mouth slightly and looked at the initiator of all this in a daze. The black-haired figure. It turned out to be that kid. On the big screens around the world, Kurosawa tilted his head slightly, and his blue eyes were reflected in the eyes of the world. That guy is Kurosawa. It was he who severely injured Whitebeard. Who is Kurosawa? It's the rising star of the Navy. Didn't you read the newspaper that day? It's who the challenger is. Marineford, on the execution platform. At this time, Sengoku also realized that the situation on the battlefield had begun to tilt towards the Navy because of one person. Sengoku couldn't help but raise the corners of his mouth. He couldn't miss such an opportunity. Picked up the Den Den Mushi, Sengoku shouted with all his strength. Attention all personnel, the enemy's commander Whitebeard has been successfully injured by us. Such a powerful blow came from our Navy's superstar Kurosawa. He is the future star of our Navy. Even Whitebeard, who is known as the strongest man in the world, can't resist the future of our Navy. In this battle, the Navy will win. All troops, attack. Quote, the battle was a battle, and the battle was over. In the Holy Land of Marihoa, the 5 elders were watching the war in real time through Den Den Mushi communication. The god of finance. It's a loss not to bring Kurosawa into the CP. The god of agriculture. There's no way. He was brought into the Navy by Garp. From the moment he noticed him, it was already difficult to win him over. The god of law. This level of attack is enough to threaten the 4 emperors. Even Lucci doesn't have such strength. What a pity. The god of environment. If he can't work for us, what's the difference between him and the enemy? Just get rid of him. The god of science defense. Let's wait and see. Vegapunk's new weapons are about to appear, you can look forward to it. Quote. At this time on the battlefield of Marineford, Doflamingo looked at the figure in the sky with some disbelief, and then the expression on his face changed from shock to a kind of amusement. Foo. It turned out to be this kid. Really, CP guys should be regretting their intestines. How could it be this fool? What a joke. Mariah's face was hideous. The guy who had a violent conflict with him not long ago actually had such a powerful combat power in the blink of an eye. Doesn't it mean that if he meets him again, Mariah is likely to be defeated by this kid? The always aloof Hawkeye Mahawk curled his lips. What an interesting kid. Bartholomew Kuma had a blank expression on his face, and opened and closed his mouth in a voice that only he could hear. You are indeed a man who can beat up the son of a dragon. Kurosawa. After seeing Kurosawa's face, Boa Hancock, the pirate queen who always looked down on men and looked down on all males, actually had her pupils shrunken. How could there be such a handsome man in the world? And he is so powerful. But speaking of it, the guy who injured Luffy in the Sabayati archipelago a few days ago must be him. In that case, he is my enemy. I will meet you later. Boa Hancock's face regained calmness, and her eyes stared straight at Kurosawa. Huo Shaoshan slashed out a sword with his sword to clear the pirates in the area in front of him. Then he looked at the figure with black hair in the sky and smiled sincerely. You are worthy of being in my training camp. Not far from Huo Shaoshan, a dark-clad strong man just killed a pirate with a razor. He looked at the figure in the sky and raised his mouth unconsciously. Of course, Instructor Huo Shaoshan, he is the boss of our training camp. After saying that, Miguel turned his eyes to the distance. In that direction, a captain of the Whitebeard pirates was killing people everywhere. If the boss is so strong, he can't fall behind too much. Flying Squirrel also praised. Indeed, you have indeed produced an amazing guy this time. Steels moved his shoulders. The younger generation is so brave, we old guys have no face to continue to mix if we don't show our strength. Looking at the several powerful figures rushing forward, they have swept away a large area of pirates in just a few breaths. The morale of the Navy soldiers is even higher. The vice admirals have also taken action. They are all so strong. Whitebeard pirates, welcome your doomsday. Kill. In the sky, blue eyes overlook the battlefield, and the surging curse power in Kurosawa's body slowly subsided. Through the observation of the 6 eyes, he could see the physical condition of Whitebeard very intuitively. The maximum output of the hollow style, Chi, only caused Whitebeard to suffer this little injury, but Marco has also absorbed most of the power. That's all. I just wanted to test it. Quote. Kurosawa thought so, but the captains of the Whitebeard pirates were not happy. Kurosawa injured their father. Flower Sword Beasta had a fierce look on his face, and the blade in his hand emitted bursts of cold light. What a joke, a little kid like you actually hurt my dad. It's all my fault for being careless. Marco's face was ugly, the pain in his body had almost disappeared, but the humiliation brought to him by Kurosawa made him furious. You fool, you dared to attack my dad. Let me teach you a lesson. After saying that, Marco waved his hands, and the blue immortal flame quickly rekindled on his 2 arms, and waves of air swept out, bringing a powerful reaction force straight to the sky. Empty, like a blue arrow piercing the sky, with an extremely fierce edge piercing the sky. Kurosawa looked at Marco who was coming to kill him with an unchanged expression. Just you. You really forgot the pain after the wound healed. Brat, you must have exhausted your strength after launching such an attack. How dare you be so shameless? Go to hell. Marco screamed, and his figure was approaching rapidly. Marco attacked Kurosawa. Not good. Kurosawa is in danger. The Marines couldn't help but exclaimed when they saw this, and even veteran vice admirals such as Huo Shaoshan had a gloomy face. Although Kurosawa's move just now was extremely excellent, in the end, in their opinion, it was still an unexpected effect. And as Marco said, after launching such an attack, Kurosawa must have been exhausted, right? He actually attacked a junior without martial ethics. The 2 of them were so angry that they had to wait for the execution. The lieutenant generals wanted to stop him, but they heard a leisurely voice. Yo, what an amazing kid, but if you let your own men fight against the captains so early, don't you think you are too dismissive of us? Under the execution platform, Borsalino said as he walked to the front, his eyes under the sunglasses were already locked on Marco flying into the air. The next second, Borsalino's body turned into light particles and disappeared, and when he appeared again, he had come to Kurosawa's side. You said so. Buzz. A dazzling golden light flashed around Kurosawa. Kick at the speed of light. Borsalino's right foot flashed a deadly light, and this kick was powerful enough to break a towering tree and swung it towards Marco. Boom. General Borsalino. Captain Marco. In the air, facing Borsalino's light speed kick, Marco also kicked out, and the terrifying power came from the sole of his foot. Marco's face instantly became ugly. He clenched his teeth and continued to release the explosive domineering aura. He still felt extremely difficult despite the continuous force of his feet. Kizaru, you fool. It's really scary, everyone is as strong as a monster. The captains of Whitebeard. Borsalino made a teasing expression and pressed his foot down with a relaxed look. Swish. Marco couldn't resist and was kicked into the ice, making a deep dent, but he stood up again soon. Obviously, this blow did not cause him any harm. Kurosawa-kun, you've worked so hard, you can take a break first. As he spoke, Borsalino's body turned into golden light particles again. The next second, a huge golden light shone above Whitebeard. Yashikani no Magatama. Don't get carried away, Kizaru. Immortal Thistle. Amid the shining golden light, a figure carrying blue flames quickly caught up. Under the watchful eyes of the crowd, Marco once again spun his body at high speed, condensing a blue flame shield to block the attack of the golden light particles. I actually blocked it. General Borsalino's attack. I failed to block Kurosawa's attack before, but now I can block the general's attack. In the sky, Borsalino was embarrassed after a round of sweeping, listening to the discussion of the crowd. Really, I was outdone by the juniors. Sign, Kizaru. With a swish, the phoenix flying in the sky suddenly accelerated and came to Borsalino's head, and then kicked it hard. Bang! Borsalino blocked Marco's kick with one hand, with a slight smile on his face. It's really scary. Marco gritted his teeth and pressed down hard. What a joke. Borsalino's figure was kicked into the land of Marinford, and dust and smoke rose up with a bang. General. Amid the exclamations of the soldiers, Borsalino quickly turned into light particles and flashed out from the ruins. Despite the huge explosion, his uniform was not even stained with dust. Don't worry, I'm fine. After saying that, Borsalino looked at the sky meaningfully. Kurosawa was slowly landing. The purple attack of Kurosawa just now actually broke through the attack that even his Yasukani no Magatama couldn't break through. Did he really let it go too much? Borsalino regretted it a little. At this time, few people noticed that a strong man actually inserted his hands directly into the ice. You know, the ice frozen by Kuzan can't even be cut by ordinary swords, so you can imagine how hard it is. Then, crack, crack, crack. Amidst the violent sound of breaking, a giant ice block as big as a small mountain was held in Jaws' hand. What a joke. That guy's strength can actually hold such an ice block. Joe's gathered his strength, his veins popping out. Marine, die for me. The giant ice block flew into the air and was thrown towards the execution platform. Kurosawa narrowed his eyes as he watched this scene. It is not difficult to imagine that if a Kainu did not take action, Ace might be directly crushed to death by the ice block. Well, it's a good development. Hey, Marine, you're the one who attacked your dad. Buzz. The gorgeous and romantic rose sword energy broke through the air. Kurosawa slightly tilted his head, and his figure disappeared in a flash. Crack. Ah, the rose sword energy was easily avoided by Kurosawa, but it was a pity that Ace was affected. The ordinary pirates who came across it were directly invaded by the rose sword energy that looked a bit gorgeous and romantic, and strangled to death. He actually dodged it. Flower Sword Vista's eyes moved slightly when he saw this scene. Just now, he had deliberately adopted an extremely fast sword energy attack, sacrificing some power in exchange for unparalleled speed. Is it shaving? No, even those vice admirals in the Navy who are proficient in shaving can't dodge my knife. Shaving. Kurosawa curled his lips and looked at the flower swordsman with a thick beard in front of him. The bounty is 884 million Baileys. Not bad. Oh, report my bounty, do you still want my head? Flower Sword Vista sneered. Kurosawa just smiled faintly. While the two were talking, the iceberg that Joe's picked up and smashed against the execution platform was about to fall. The several giant Navy vice admirals guarding the execution platform looked panicked. This is too big. We can't stop it. What an amazing strength. That Whitebeard 3rd Division Captain Diamond Joe's. Even the giant vice admiral with a body size of more than 10 meters was like a mantis trying to stop a chariot in front of this iceberg. One by one, all ran away. Really, Sengoku's order didn't include you. Gurgle gurgle. Under the execution platform, a figure in red stood up from the chair, and the thick arms under the sleeves turned into rolling magma. In just a moment, the temperature under the execution platform suddenly rose, and the surrounding air became distorted. It was the extreme scorching heat, representing the most lethal natural fruit in the world of One Piece, the magma fruit. If there is no one guarding here, how can we explain to the world if we are attacked by the enemy? While shouting, the magma transformed from Sasuke's right arm suddenly expanded again. Big fire. A giant magma fist comparable to the size of a giant smashed the iceberg fiercely. Puff. Under the shocked gaze of everyone, the extremely hard iceberg began to melt rapidly as soon as it came into contact. After a breath, the supergiant iceberg disappeared out of thin air. If it weren't for everyone's personal witness, it would be as if it had never existed. You are worthy of being General Sasuke. That iceberg, it melted all at once. Wait, what is that? A red light flashed on the giant magma fist. When the red light reached its peak, it suddenly exploded, turning into countless magma fireballs and falling into the battlefield. Its power is so strong that just one fireball is enough to destroy a giant pirate ship. Boom boom boom. As the lava fireballs continued to fall, the battlefield was like hell for a while. Ah, it seems that your attacks are not very effective. The firelight reflected on Kurosawa's face, and the dark red color of the lava in the sky made the darkness in his hand even more creepy. Playing with knives in front of me. You should worry more about yourself, little brat who speaks arrogantly. Flower Sword Beasta looked fierce, and his body turned into a thin shadow and rushed towards Kurosawa. Wherever the two swords passed, roses were left. Kurosawa's 6 eyes flashed, and he could clearly see the needle-like sword energy contained in the rose, which was as if it was about to explode in bud. One sword flow kang one flash. Rose waltz. Clang. The blades of both sides suddenly intersected, and in an instant, the sky was full of roses and blue waves scattered, and the surrounding ice surface broke instantly, and countless cracks spread and then exploded. Crack, crack, watching countless ice cubes of different shapes being shaken into the air by the powerful sword energy. Flower Sword Vista's face flashed with shock. Your swordsmanship has actually entered the realm of a great swordsman. What a joke. Isn't this guy said to be a devil fruit ability user? How can he also do swordsmanship? Such a young guy. The potential is simply terrible. However, there are also first and second-rate great swordsmen. Kid, your swordsmanship is still too young. Vista quickly recovered from the shock, but saw Kurosawa's mouth curled. As a world-class great swordsman, Vista's insight is naturally not weak. With a keen sense of smell, he instantly noticed something was wrong. There is an inexplicable force surging around this kid, revealing weirdness everywhere. Captain Vista, I'm here to help you. You are the one who attacked your father, kid. A man not far away shouted angrily and came with a knife at a very fast speed. Seeing this, Vista tried to stop him, but was sucked in place by an unknown force. Vista was shocked. There was definitely something wrong with this kid. Don't come over here, Fosa. Fosa, the captain of the 15th Division of the Whitebeard Pirates, was confused. Ritual forward. Kang. The blue ball of light appeared between Kurosawa and Fosa. The horrible gravity instantly condensed between Fosa and the surrounding ice cubes. At the same time, Fosa was controlled by this force and could not move. Spell release. Kurosawa held the knife in his right hand, formed a seal with his left hand, and gently slashed at Fosa. The fatal cursed slash and the Kang carrying countless ice fragments smashed into Fosa fiercely. Bang, shua, shua. In an instant, Fosa became a bloody mess, and the blade in his hand became fragmented. Kurosawa looked at Vista in front of him with a shocked expression, and opened and closed his mouth. Don't get in the way. Ding! Congratulations to the host for killing Fosa. Obtained a bounty of 100 million. Ding! Congratulations to the host for killing Fosa. Obtained a 100 million level bounty worth 295 million Baileys. On the ice surface not far away, the surging blue curse power and the dark red and black curse power slashed together, and the ice debris attracted by Kang turned into countless thin blades, cutting Fosa's. His body was strangled beyond recognition. In the blink of an eye, the captain of the 15th Division of the Whitebeard Pirates, who was feared by the New World, died on the spot. Captain Fosa. Impossible. Captain Fosa actually dead. Quote. Originally, the pirates who watched Fosa rushing towards Kurosawa thought that in a 2-on-1 situation, it was a sure thing to take down Kurosawa, but they never expected that. The final outcome was that he was killed instantly. What kind of monster is this Kurosawa? In the eyes of everyone in amazement, Kurosawa looked at the furious Vista in front of him, and raised his lips slightly. Why, you can't accept this. The remnants of the old times. Quote exclamation mark quote. Veins popped out on Vista's forehead, and blood vessels bulged out from the tight dress on his arms. Buzz buzz buzz. The flowing sword energy and domineering aura gathered together into a trickle of energy that entangled the two swords. As it circled, the roses became brighter and brighter. Remnants of the old times. Brat, be prepared. Vista's eyes were fierce, and the two swords in his hands kept rubbing against Kurosawa's. Darkness, and the vibration amplitude and sparks became larger and larger. Clang clang clang. Kurosawa narrowed his eyes slightly, and at this moment, his 6 eyes suddenly discovered that a scorching wave came from the sky. In the sky, a huge magma fireball streaked a long line in the sky. The black smoke tail fell rapidly towards Kurosawa and Vista. Kurosawa curled his lips. I'll deal with you later. After he finished speaking, Kurosawa's left hand moved his fingers slightly, and Kang, who had just finished off Fosa on the field, rushed towards Vista under Kurosawa's control. The violent gravity shattered more ice wherever it passed, and formed a cold ice thorn ball with a large amount of ice debris. It is not difficult to imagine that if such an attack hit, even a strong Navy Vice Admiral would be. They were also extremely uncomfortable, not to mention a fragile swordsman like Vista. It's a magma fireball. Get out of the way. Captain Vista, be careful of the sky. At this time, there was not even a moment to protect the Buddha. The pirates of the Whitebeard Pirates hurriedly shouted a warning to mourn the death of Saw. The two attacks, one red and one blue, came almost at the same time. Being a veteran and a top swordsman, Vista could quickly judge the threat of the magma fireball from the sky. The ice ball hitting him was much more threatening. Little devil, do you want to die with me? Then I can only say that you are too young. Vista shook his arms, and the flower sword in his hand danced a gorgeous arc. The bright red rose sword energy brought with it a powerful vibration force and directly cut Kurosawa and his sword into the air. How can you dodge this attack in midair? Vista sneered at Kurosawa in midair, and the former's rose sword energy almost instantly broke through the unlimited magic on Kurosawa's surface. Defense. Now Kurosawa only relies on sword energy and armed color domineering to defend, but the current level of skills is obviously unable to resist Vista's sword energy for too long. In less than half a second. Rose sword energy. If he can penetrate Kurosawa before the lava fireball falls, Kurosawa will surely die. However, Kurosawa curled his lips, and Vista thought to himself that it was not good. Does this kid have a backup plan? Goodbye. As soon as Kurosawa finished speaking, his figure disappeared out of thin air. How is this possible? Vista's pupils shrank. He didn't understand why Kurosawa could break free after being entangled by his rose sword energy, so fast that he could hardly see it clearly. No, now is not the time to think about this. The next second, the magma fireball and Kurosawa's blue ice ball arrived at the same time. Boom! The red and blue light shone at this moment, and the terrifying high-temperature flames and extremely cold gravity ice spikes completely engulfed Vista. Kurosawa, the figure, appeared in the distance, ignoring Vista, and the system did not receive any notification that Vista was killed. Sure enough, he is a first-class swordsman, and he took Akainu's attack head-on. Didn't they kill him? Quote. Compared to Kurosawa's sigh, in the distance, on the Moby Dick, everyone witnessed the whole process. Whitebeard frowned during this brief fight. This kid is too evil. At this moment, a huge magma fireball hit Whitebeard in the sky, and the latter's expression remained unchanged. Dwang! Whitebeard shook his left hand, and the domineering aura surging in his body finally expelled the dark purple curse power from his body. Then he held Kusugawa Chris with his right hand, and the surging domineering aura and vibration power gathered at the tip of the knife, and stabbed directly at the magma fireball. Bang! Kakaka! After a loud bang, the invisible gust of wind mixed with the domineering vibration power directly stopped the magma fireball, and then Whitebeard blew hard, and actually blew out the burning high-temperature flame directly. Whitebeard looked at Sakazuki on the execution platform with a confident smile on his face. Lava Kid, you should go light the candles on my birthday cake. Sakazuki also looked confident. Old man with hemiplegia, do you like a luxurious funeral? Whitebeard did not answer, but roughly glanced around the battlefield. At this time, the situation of the war was slightly out of his expectations, because Kurosawa injured him, causing a sharp drop in morale. Except for the captains who can still gain the upper hand, the battles in other places are all on the trend of retreat. Whitebeard frowned. You know, the war has just started. If it develops like this. No, I was careless. Whitebeard looked at the boy who had just injured him and found that the latter was already running towards his other captain. You killed Fosa almost in one move. Is that still not enough to satisfy you, young marine? Gulala. Whitebeard laughed with anger on his face. He made a big move and then jumped up. Whitebeard's cape fluttered behind him in the sky. A pair of turbid eyes were shining. Unimaginable terrifying power gathered in his left fist. Gather. Sons, get out of the way. With a loud shout, countless pirates were shocked when they heard the voice. Dad is taking action. Get out of the way. Looking at the anger on Whitebeard's face, Marco kicked a vice admiral away. Dad, is he angry? On the execution platform, Sengoku looked at Whitebeard who jumped up and his face changed drastically. Are you going to do it yourself so soon? Whitebeard. In addition to being amazed, Sengoku was more excited. The opponent's coach was eliminated so early, all because of Kurosawa. Wait, Whitebeard's target is Kurosawa. I hope everyone will support it and subscribe more.